Are we live? I think. Let's see. Okay, looks like Twitch is working. Yeah. Okay, Facebook's working. What about YouTube? Does not seem to be responding, but let's see. One thing says it's working, and the other says that it's not. So let's see who's telling the truth. I guess it's working. There's me. Okay, I guess we're working. I guess we're fine. Okay, in that case, I need to post the posts to let people know we're live. The Restream changed the way that they work since I've been away, so I'm trying to grapple with that and figure it out, and half of it worked. I'm not sure if all of it worked yet, so I think I still have to get used to that. Okay, get the YouTube link. And I have just no F's left to give for X here. So I'm going to insert the links directly in the post, and I don't care anymore. If they want to debuff it or whatever, then that's on them. Alright, now I need the Twitch link. Twitch. I should know what it is because it never changes. But I will absolutely not remember what it's supposed to be. Okay, can we go to my channel? Thank you. Am I here? Okay, there I am. Hello. Are we hearing the audio? We're probably hearing the audio feedback. Okay, let's see. It'd be great if I could spell, right? Working. Not walking, working. Okay. That is fine. We will post that. We'll post that. And ping everyone to annoy everyone to say, hey, here I am. Of course, hashtags don't really work on Discord, so we have to change that. Okay. Okay, are we all right? Is chat actually working? Are we doing okay? It's been a heck of a week. I had a power outage earlier, and that was awful. And okay. I think we're here. I think we're live. Let's see, catch up to real time. Okay. Oh. The video's not playing in the background. That would be great. There we go. Video's in the background. We're all right. Let's see. And yeah. Okay, I mean, we should be all right. Hopefully I'm audible and you can hear me, which I should have checked. Yeah, looks like it should be all right. Are we good? Yeah, alright. Okay, so hello. Let me take the thing off. There. Okay, hello. I guess this is technically going to be the pre-Christmas stream because next week is Christmas is on a Wednesday, and I'm not streaming on Christmas, so I'm not that much of a weirdo. And I'm just gonna pause the stream preview stuff here because it's gonna cut into my bandwidth. Okay, so it's been kind of a weird week. I haven't been feeling too well. Definitely overdid it last time, so we're not going to try to do that again. And we'll try to maintain a more reasonable workload. So I've been mostly resting the last week or so, and then we had the power outage today, so I wanted to get all the stream prep done earlier today, but that didn't happen because, well, power was out. Can't start the computer or use the internet when the power's out. Well, actually, you technically can use the internet when the power is out, assuming that you can power your router and your modem and all that, but I don't have something like that set up like I used to, so that is what it is. The modem is down in the basement, and I really don't feel like buying a specific, what do you call it? A specific uninterruptible power supply, a UPS, just for the modem downstairs because they are quite expensive. And right now, as you can imagine, I don't got a lot of money. You know, considering the whole spine surgery and medical debt stuff, yeah, we're not doing too well. So I can't just go out and buy something like that. Would be nice, but can't do it. Anyway, yeah, so I didn't really prepare too much for this week. However, I can show a bit of what I've done in the meantime. So, TCCan. What was I doing last? I added some functions. That's not very exciting. And we can talk about the character stuff that I'm working on. I did a little bit, excuse me, with the Game Boy filter and the filters in general and the resolution stuff. And I'm trying to think, I know there was something else. I did a bit of experimenting, trying to get like optional plugins to work. And the little that I could find about the topic seemed to be kind of some debate as to whether or not it's even possible to do a truly optional plugin. Like you have a plugin that depends on another one, but like, well, I can show you exactly what I'm trying to do. So here's test plugin, right? And I want to make this one, test plugin interface, optional. And it seems like it should be able to work, but it just kind of doesn't. It's possible I'm just doing it wrong. Oh, here. So I want it to put in a optional tag here so that if the plugin is detected and it's active, then it will implement this interface. And an interface is just like a way to get access to a certain functionality for something. Don't worry too much about that, but just know that you can do optional stuff with it. So, you know, it would run whatever's in here and then not really doing anything with this necessarily, because it's just a test, not actually like doing anything. But I wanted to see if you could get it to be optional, because in here you can test, you know, does this thing exist and is it enabled? And then if it is, then we want to make that tag and add that plugin to the code that can work with it. And it sort of seems to work. It actually does generate the tag and all that. But if you ever disable this plugin, like turn this enabled defaults, it will basically just crash the editor whenever it tries to load the plugin. And I'm not sure why, and I've seen people talk about like, hey, I tried to set it up that way and it just crashes my editor. And some people are like, optional doesn't work at all. And then other people are like, well, it should work. And it looks like there's undocumented code regarding it working, but there's no real, like, nobody knows if it works or not. I don't know. Getting answers to questions like this in Unreal seems to be like a nightmare. So I just kind of put that on hold for now. And part of the reason I was interested in it because I was talking to, I forget who it was now, and I'm trying to remember what the game was. I think it may have been Guilty Gear Strive, or Tekken, because they both use Unreal Engine. And somebody mentioned that the way that they do their characters is the entire character is like a plugin. And they add characters by adding plugins. And you would kind of expect that it would have to, in some way, be sort of an optional thing. That, like, if it exists, then it reads the data and does something with it. And if it doesn't exist, then it just ignores it and goes on. I'm not sure exactly how they set that up, but that got me interested into trying to get this to work, but it just crashes every time. So I don't know. I'll put the idea on the back burner, and if I can figure it out, I'll let you know how it works. But I don't know. There's some people that are saying, like, yeah, it looks like it's supposed to work, but it actually doesn't. Like, this optional tag is not, like, really implemented or something. I don't know. I don't know who's telling the truth and who's full of shit. I really don't know, and I have no idea how to investigate it. So I'm just going to abandon that idea for now. But it was worth a shot. It would have been neat if you could do that. I have something like a for each. I don't know. Well, this code here, this is like, I think this is C#, because it's a .cs. This is like the build code. So when you make a build, and like start the editor with the build or make a build when you release it, like this stuff is supposed to kind of be flexible so you can like create tags and like add dependencies and stuff, you know, based on criteria. But you know, this part I added. Normally you just get the basic stuff where you just add it and it works all the time. I don't know. I really don't know. It does detect whether or not the plugin exists, though, because this get plugin will be null if this doesn't exist. So this will return something if it actually exists. And then I tried to use the is enabled by default, and that seems to work. But then when I tell this enabled false, then it like doesn't seem to, maybe it's still registering as true somehow, and then it just explodes, it just crashes, and I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm not going to screw with it right now. That is definitely outside my pay grade. So it would have been really nice because you could just make an interface which can add functionality to an object and just turn it off, because you could say, oh, well, I've got my spawning system. If the spawning system exists, then allow functionality for it, and if not, then don't bother implementing it because it's not there. Because that would be really neat. It would make things a bit more modular. But yeah, so I don't know. I guess that doesn't work, or I don't know how to do it, or somebody out there must know how to do it. I can't imagine that optional flag being in there and not doing anything, but I've literally seen people say that, yeah, the optional flag just doesn't work. It's not fully implemented or something. I'm like, oh, that's great. So I don't know. Yeah, anyway, so let's do something else. Let me start the editor here. This might take a minute because I have not compiled it yet today. So it's going through its little steps and its warnings, and then potentially an error if there is an error. Hopefully there's not. And then I did a little bit. I think if you saw on YouTube, I did post a video about the Game Boy filter, and I did adjust the contrast and some other things. I forget exactly where we left off on stream with that, but I remember talking about having to change some of the code or whatever. Oh, I remember now. I had to split it up into 2 steps so that we did the green filter first, and then the scan lines were applied to it after. So the scan lines are not sent to the next frame. Only the green pixels are. And that fixed the problem we were having with the contrast, because it wasn't trying to blend the scan lines over and over and over. It was causing them to sort of multiply and drown out the other colors. So now it's separated. We apply the green and the blur and then send that to the next frame. And then on a different route, we apply the scan lines and send that to the screen, and then it's ready. And that did fix everything. So, and I did a couple other changes in here. Let's see, F11. So I separated the screen sizes and the filters, so I can do the screen sizes separately, and then the filters, I can do those separately. So I can kind of mix and match and do what I want. I don't know. I looked at the VOD after for the Game Boy filter, and oh my god, it looks so terrible on stream because of the encoding. So I'm sure it still looks like Garbo. But I'll take a little snapshot and zoom in here for you so that you can kind of really see what it looks like now. So it definitely looks more grid-like, and it doesn't look as rounded on the intersections, which is good. And yeah, so that's it. That's your Game Boy filter. Good old pea soup green diarrhea filter. It doesn't look that terrible. I did bump up the encoding settings because it was using the wrong ones last time. I talked a little bit about this in Discord before I went live, but the way that like Restream does their stuff now, like really changed. They changed how it works. So it how do I want to put it? They have like multiple profiles now instead of just having one Go Live profile, and I ended up using the wrong one last time. And that's why the stream settings were like the title was from the week before and stuff. It kind of got all messed up. But everything should be back to normal this week, hopefully. And that means that the stream settings that I'm using should be back to normal. Or what they were intended, at least, which should be much higher quality. So, let's see. It's possible to view the details of Mega Man for one. Well, that's good, and the environment. Yeah, how did it look while I was moving around this stage, though? Did it get really blurry or really crappy? Obviously, like, it looks good on my end, but I'm not looking through the encoder. Because, yeah, last week's encoding settings were like Garbo. It was, like, unviewable. We need a scrolling part? Well, this part's scrolling. Let's see how that looks. Keep scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. Whoa, whoa, and I'm dead. Yep. Oh, and I'm alive. There's no crush damage yet. Looks good? Oh, okay. All right. So it might have been just that it was using the really bad encoding settings last time. So it might be a lot better now. So that's good. Okay. Well, I'm happy that that's kind of settled. So yeah, and then I can just change the size. Oh, wait, no, I'm changing my location here. I can change the size and the filter to whatever I want, mix and match, which is really helpful for testing, as you can imagine. We also went through the whole issue of everything stacking too much. Yeah, that's true. That's true. So the blur is adjusted and the contrast is better now. Well, probably all that together is helping. So yeah, I mean, that's mainly what I was working on throughout the week, other than testing the optional plugin stuff. Again, I kind of overdid it last time, and so I had to kind of take some time off there to recuperate. Definitely went a little overboard. So this week, I'm not trying to do that. We'll try to stick to a couple hours. I'm trying to think of what else I did. I do want to show the little editor icon stuff in a minute. But I'm trying to think of what else I did in the meantime. Oh, I did add this other feature. It's kind of more of a nuanced coding thing, but when I should show Mega Man's blueprint here first. Mega Man's got a lot of components, as you can see over here. He's got a lot of visual components, and we'll close all these tabs. He's got a lot of visual components. These are like his hitboxes. And like this, I think this thin one is the ladder detection box, and the capsule is his physical body, and so on and so forth. And these arrows basically depicting like shooting points and other things. This one says full charge VFX. Oh, that's I used to have a little VFX flash when he was at full charge, but I turned it off. I'm not sure what I want to do with that in terms of graphics, so I did disable that. But as you can see, like the sprite, he's got all these components and stuff, and you can sometimes have little icons. Like you can see the little icon here. And that's where these things come from. So this is his faction controller. And a faction is obviously just like, you know, you can make alliances between objects. So anybody that is on the same team is theoretically not going to hit themselves. But that was one of the ones I did here. And then the flag is the actual faction object, which you can see here, which is off stream. But so there's faction player. And then I have all the other factions. So this has an alliance to allied all and reflected player attacks. So when the Buster Shot gets reflected, it changes alliance from player to reflected player attacks. And so enemies are also allied with this so that they do not get attacked by it. And I guess I'm just kind of wandering all over the place, but I did want to show that. I could just dock this in here for now. I usually have this in a separate window, but now I got chat on the other window, so it's tough. I don't have my tablet with me, otherwise I'd have chat down here and I'd be able to see more stuff, but it is what it is. Oh yeah, I had another window too that I was trying to get chat on. Is that working? It is. Yeah, and that's a little easier to see, so I think I'll use that one. I don't remember, but were the screen transitions instant or do they scroll over? Right now they're instant because I didn't have time to put in the screen scrolling stuff, and I'm not going to bother with it until the new level editor stuff is done. And AJ's helping with that, so whenever he gets that done, then we can kind of move to the new clean project and then begin using the level editor for that kind of stuff. But until, because if I did it now, I would just have to redo it again when the new level editor stuff is in, because it's going to work completely different. So I'm just not going to bother with it and waste time doing it twice. So I just kind of let it go for this part. Anyway, yeah, I was going to explain, I'm kind of all over the place today. I was going to explain the other thing that I did. So, yeah, when these components, when the actor gets built into the world, and he actually spawns in and appears, there's a function that we use. This one, begin play. And that's basically just kind of, hey, the object has loaded and you're going to start existing in the world, set up your shit so that you're prepared. And I've got a lot of like test stuff here and some initializing things like make the player fall. Otherwise, they'll just be standing in the air. So I want to force them into the fall state so that they actually find the ground and sit down. This is like getting the controller input ready. is like setting up the palette, equipping sub weapons, like the initial sub weapon. Well, this is actually turned off right now anyway, so there's only the mega arm. Initializing the animations and so on and so forth. And that happens, and then all the components go through that. They all have begin plays, so all these things have begin plays. And that's where the problem happens. Let me pull up the code here. Because begin play only happens once. And I had this problem with Unity too. I solved it in a different way. Let me close these. Bring these up. Okay, and then we're gonna pick the one that I started with to fix this problem, which was the sprites, believe it or not. Paper Sprite Plus. Is this it? I think so. So when Paper Sprite Plus first goes into the world, it needs to find actor sequencers, and that's these things here. And these are basically the animation files that the character uses. So we've got like shooting, the inching, jumping, walking, idle, etc., etc. Sliding, slide turnaround, all that stuff. Because what happens is there's an event in here that says, hey, the animation has updated, because as you can see, there's a whole bunch of them and they're just kind of here. I could theoretically turn them all on at once if I wanted to, but that's not ideal for like a 2D game, so I don't do that. But it does have the capability to play multiple ones and stuff, which is useful for 3D characters. So, like, say if you have the character blinking, let's say, you have the animation in their eyes closing and opening. You want to play that regardless if they're swinging a sword or, well, maybe not when they're swinging a sword, but if they're walking or running or whatever, they can blink at any time, just kind of like on its own, and you can just play those two animations at once, and they'll just kind of, whatever the results are, they kind of merge the results into one kind of thing. And the sprites don't get a notification that that's happened, so whenever these things update, I think the other components are just kind of built in to know when that's happening, and they get like a notification or something that they've been altered. But the sprites don't do that by default. So I said, for each sprite object, just look to see how many of these things are in here, and then just attach to them. Like hook into that event that says, oh, hey, the animation has updated. And then no matter which one updates, you'll be ready to go. You know, you'll have that notification that something happens, and then the sprite can prepare itself to change the image and so on and so forth. The problem is all these little animations in their begin play, they set that up. They set up the animation so that you can like check the events and stuff. But that's all kind of happens at random. So these could, like these first 5 could go, and then the sprite goes to their begin play, and then it does these other ones after. Well, whatever one it didn't get to yet, you can't attach to it yet because it hasn't set up its data, which is, I feel like they could have picked an earlier time to do that, but maybe not, I'm not sure. So you can see the problem if it's sort of randomized who gets to go first. And if the sprites go first, they're not going to be attached to any of these because they're not set up yet. If the sprites go last, then sure, they can attach to them, but you can't force it into a specific sequence. It's just going to be whatever it is. The effectively random. Like, it's not technically random, but it might as well be because you don't know who's going first and who's going last. So that was causing problems when I implemented that. So I needed a way to have something after begin play say, hey, take a second look at all these and see if you can do something with them. Now that they're guaranteed to all have been set up, we need to now go through and do that. And there didn't seem to be a built-in way to do that. So I made my own little workaround where I have my own, you see where this says Pawn Plus. It's not just a pawn, it's Pawn Plus. And there's Actor Plus and so on. And actors and pawns are basically the same thing. Everything's technically an actor, and a pawn has a little more functionality. But they're kind of all based on that stuff. So I said, well, since we have our own base classes here to do extra functionality, why don't we detect when begin play happens? And then, did I not put it on this one? That's actually kind of funny. Let me check the pawn one. Oh, it's gotta be here. Because that other object was complaining that it was happening. Let's see. Oh, you heard it. Oh, no, it's inside begin play. Okay. Yeah, I just play it after. So begin play goes, and these are all the begin play commands. And then at the end, I'm just like, yeah, okay, let's just call a post begin play to say, hey, everything is done there begin play. Now, if you need to do something else because shit was not set up on time, or in time for begin play to get that reference, now you can do that. And essentially, I just made an interface that I can put into the sprite, which is this one. I call Actor Plus Support. And so right now it's got post actor created, which I thought this was going to be the magic bullet for me, but apparently not. This only happens if you spawn the character after the map has loaded for some reason. I don't know why. You would think that it would be like post spawn actor instead of that, but whatever. So I couldn't use that one, but I left it there in case I ever needed it. But this one, the post begin play. So when I add this here, now in here, I have, it's somewhere here. Did I put it at the end? I put it at the end. So I have the on post begin play. Oh yeah, I still left the actor created. I can get rid of that because I'm not using that one anymore. But then here, integrate with the actor sequence components, and those are the animation files. And then it can finally do all of its stuff to integrate with that. I don't know if this is a great way to handle that, or if maybe there's a better built-in way to handle that, but I could not get the answer by looking through the forums and stuff. Nothing looked like it was trying to do exactly what I was trying to do, and no surprise, ChatGPT was of no help. It actually did not understand what I was trying to do at all, which is not too surprising. Because if no one else is talking about it, then it doesn't think for itself. It just pulls, Reddit threads and Unreal Forum threads and tries to figure out what you're talking about. But if nobody's been doing this or nobody's asking that question, then it is not going to have an answer. So, unfortunately, I could not find what the normal answer would be for this. Maybe it's just not something people encounter very often. In fact, until I did this, until I made this, or ran into the problem rather with the sprite needing to find the animation files that weren't set up, I had never run into anything not being like ready to hook an event up or whatever. So maybe it's just something that's not usually a problem. I don't know. Maybe it just doesn't happen a lot, and so nobody's ever really asked that question, or at least not in the way that I could find. Yeah. I tried with ChatGPT. I tried to phrase it in all sorts of other ways and stuff, and It was, its main answer was basically like, looks like you gotta do it yourself, champ. And I'm like, yep, you know what? That's probably what we're gonna do then. So that's what I did. I don't know if this is a great way to do it, but it certainly works. The only thing is, you have to make sure that the actor class is your actor plus class, or whatever you want to call it, because that's what's going to facilitate this call to the post begin play, and then it goes through and it tries to find all the objects with this interface. So yeah, so just make sure you can't call it from anything but pawn plus and actor plus, and then it just finds stuff with the interface. Let's see, yeah, get objects with the interface. That's a separate function here. Yeah, here we are. Same thing. Make sure it can only be called from these two classes. And yeah, if you send it bad data, we want to throw an error. Yeah, I was wondering if I should also be able to support just like variable objects and stuff too with this, but I'm not sure, because you can just kind of search for through all the like the blueprint values and stuff. I don't know if you can do that for class members or not. So I don't know if I should support that, if that would be a good idea or not. Because you could technically implement that interface into things that are not components. So I don't know. Either way, I get the Actor Plus support interface type, and I just say, hey, please find the components with that interface. And then it just calls the function. Once it finds those, just calls the function on them. And that's it. It shouldn't be too slow, and it's something that's only going to happen once on begin play, so hopefully that's not a huge issue. If I have to add more of these, I don't know how slow they will be to grab all the references like this and then to call this on it. So it may not be something you want to do every frame, but at least for now I don't have to do it every frame, so we'll see. It is a nice clean way to do it though, because I could just add it up here. You just add this and boom, that's it. Then you're hooked into the system and it's ready to go. And you just make the function down here and just do whatever you want, and it handles it automatically, which is nice and easy to implement, but I don't know. It also works in blueprints too, so you can get this function in blueprint to get called. But that's the way I handled it. I don't know if that's a great way to handle it, but it seems to work all right, at least for now. Yeah, it's a way at least. Yeah, it works. I don't like having to make my base class something else, and there is a limitation to it too. If I make an actor here, so like if I make a sprite, paper sprite, I guess you just do an actor, right? So you can place an actor, and then I could say, oh, I want to add my sprite plus to it. That's all well and good, but this is not an actor plus. This is just actor, and maybe there's a way you can reparent this somehow, but I do not see an option for it here, so I don't know, because this sprite's going to have a fit now, because it can't find actor plus. It's on a normal actor, and so if you had another thing in here, like an animation file or whatever, it would not be able to hook into it. But I think I have a potential workaround for it, although I don't really like the idea of exposing the class itself. But this, I don't know, I don't think you can just reparent this. In a blueprint, you can just go in here and say, oh, class settings, oh, we just want to pick a different one. Like it would normally just be actor or pawn. And I can go in here and I can say, you know, actor plus. Right down here. Now, I'm not going to do that because it'll ruin this file. It'll blow everything up. But like, you could do it in Blueprint, but you can't seem to change the class here unless there's something. Like, this will save it as a blueprint, but that's not what I want. I just want to change this to an Actor Plus, but I don't think you can do it like you can in Blueprints. I spent a good handful of minutes looking to see if it was possible, but I couldn't find anything about it. So I don't know. But there might be a workaround, like I said, if I just make this not abstract. Abstract just means you can't make it by default. Maybe it will work, I don't know. I'm gonna definitely close the editor when I make this change because that will have a high likelihood of exploding the editor if you make a change like this to a class and then just recompile on the fly. Not usually like that. I think that's all I have to do because this is not abstract. And again, abstract just means that you cannot just build this, a plain version of this. You have to inherit from it. So Mega Man can inherit from Spawn Plus, but you can't just make a Spawn Plus object. But we might have to allow that, so let's see what happens. The only thing I don't like about that is if you already made a bunch of sprites with normal Actor, I don't think you can just exchange them for Actor Plus, like changing the base class in a blueprint. Like, I don't think you can just hot swap them like that. So I don't know. That presents kind of a problem. There we are. We're watching Batman Beyond today, by the way. I don't know if you've ever seen Batman Beyond, but it is ridiculously good. Like, much better than it has any right to be. Very, very, very good show. I don't know where or when they made it, but I think it was early 2000s, but it was really, 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 really good. Okay, so now we might be able to... Actor Plus? Oh, it's not there. Where's it, the plus sign? Oh, there it is with the plus sign. So now we can make one. And then add Paper Sprite Plus. And there. So this one should not complain about that now. And let me see, I don't know if I disabled the complaining function. Because it'll be in begin play, I think. Yeah, here it is. Ensure plus support from Outer. And that's basically like, hey, what's your parent class? Or your actor class? If it is not, if it is not one of these two officially licensed plus classes, then we have a problem. Oh, where'd it go? Here we have a problem, and basically I just initiate a crash because at that point, if it actually truly relies on it, it will malfunction if it can't get those additional functions. So I just tell it to crash and post a message. But it won't do that in editor because I don't want you to lose work. But it will definitely throw a critical error in my logging system, which basically tells Unreal, hey, you have a big bad problem. You need to fix this immediately. But it should work here. Let's actually give you, I don't know, art. I'll give you artwork. Where are you? You're over here. Yeah, big old artwork. How about that? And I don't know if I can. Oh, yeah, it's gotta go pretty far back to go behind the thing there, doesn't it? Hey, where's Mega Man right now? Is he... Where is he? Oh, he is over here. Okay, so he should spawn in that area. And so... there we are. Big giant super sprite of the artwork, which seems to be overtaking the stage. There's tiles here somewhere. Yeah. Okay, so that's happy now. But then I'll just show you what it looks like when you do not do that and make a normal actor and add Sprite Plus. And I don't know, we'll add roll. This is going to have a fit. We're going to save just in case. This is going to have a fit. Here, and here it is. Logs a critical error. And the error here is that the owner or the outer actor 0 or actor 2. These are all different names that could potentially have in the thing here. So this is actor 2. But when runtime happens, it apparently gets renamed to actor 0. I don't know. Unreal's weird. But Paper Sprite Plus, or yeah, the owner or outer for Paper Sprite Plus does not offer the required plus support, blah, blah, blah. And so there it is. It will let you continue, but it will definitely stop the game in the compiler and be like, yo, hold up. This is big bad and you need to fix this like pronto, because this is not good. So, but yeah, that's the thing. If you have an actor already, I don't know if you can just reparent this or how that would work. Like, you can replace it with an actor, but oh wait, what about this? Oh hey, well there we go. That wasn't an option before because actor used to be abstract, which would not let you do that. But I guess now that I made it not abstract, it let you do it. Well, that's cool. Oh, but it killed. Oh, no, that did not fix it. Because now it just destroyed the sprite entirely. It killed it. It's no longer there. Yeah, see, the sprite was there, but as soon as I replaced it with this, it's gone. So no, never mind, that does not solve it. That does not do what it's supposed to do. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I guess you'd have to just manually recreate it, but that's like a huge pain in the ass, so I don't know. I don't know. You'd figure there'd be a way to do something like that. But I guess it's a blueprint only thing. And just to be clear, colloquially, I call a lot of the other stuff blueprint in general, because it's based on that functionality. But the real definition of a blueprint object is like a pre-configured object that you save. Like Mega Man's a pre-configured object. Like all these here where it says like edit, BP, like debug warpoint, cityscape, all that stuff. These are all files. These are actually like these are like saved files as special objects. But you don't necessarily want to have to do that for everything. If you just want to add a sprite and say, hey, there's a sprite of a tree or a box or something, and put it in the background, you don't want to necessarily have to make a whole blueprint for that. I mean, you could just make a generic blueprint that has one sprite object in it, but it's kind of weird to have to do that if you want to just add one on the fly. But if you do not create it with that special class, it's not going to work the way that I need it to. So I don't know. I don't know. You figured there'd be a way to do something like that, but it doesn't seem to let you do it. So I don't know. Again, maybe it's something that you can do and I just don't know how to do. There are many such cases. Because you can't right click on it. The root component is not what we want to change. That could be anything. And I don't see anything about it in here. We're on all. What's this? Property matrix. Actor. Nope. Don't look like anything's here. I don't see anything. I don't know. Above my pay grade. AJ, are you here? Are you out of the hospital yet? I need your help. I don't know. So, hey, maybe I should just ask about it on the Unreal forums and hope that somebody's charitable enough to answer it, because a lot of times it looks like people ask questions that I have and then they go completely unanswered and ignored, and I'm like, yeah, that's great. That's super helpful. Now this can convert to a blueprint, but we don't want that necessarily, because that means we have to save it in that file again. Well, I don't want to save it into a file. I just want one instance of my thing. So I don't know. The only other option would be to just make it an optional reliance, which is fine, but then you're going to forget one day, and how come it doesn't attach to the thing? How come it's not animating? Well, it's because it's optional now, and it's not an enforced kind of thing, so I don't know. I guess we'll just keep Actor Plus as a thing that exists that you can just place anywhere, make it not abstract, and hopefully you remember it. This, by the way, is why we make prototypes. And we expect to throw the prototype away. Because say we got halfway through the game and I ran into that problem and I said, well, I found this great solution that I made for fixing, it not connecting to the animation files. And then we had like 150 sprites that are just had to be manually recreated in the map. Like, that would not go over well. So that's why we try to make as many mistakes as we can in our prototype, and then we can throw it away and we will start over and know this time that, hey, in order for our thing to work, we need to have that Actor Plus being placed instead of normal Actor. So yeah, it definitely saves you time in the future, that's for sure. Or a headache. Or you could, be, hey, we're gonna redo 150, 200, 300, 400 objects that are in these levels, and that's fun. That's definitely what you want to do for a week instead of working on cool stuff and new stuff. So, it is what it is. Yeah. So that's, I guess, all I have to say about that, getting the post begin play. If anybody knows a better way to do it, I would love to know. I am not prideful enough to enforce my system, even if it sucks. If there's a better way to do it and it fits the use case that I need, I will absolutely adopt it. So I'm all ears for that. Oh, I should change that on Spawn Plus then too, and make that not abstract. And then we'll just remove abstract from the title. Again, we want to close the map and the editor, because making a change like that probably going to make it very angry. If it doesn't start freaking out, it will crash most likely, so we don't want to do big changes like that. Well, it's open. Thankfully, it doesn't take too much to reopen it, at least not now. It used to on the old computer that I had. When I started working on Immortal, it would take like a whole like minute and a half to open Unreal. And at some point I was like, okay, I'm just going to have to use a couple of my paychecks from working on this to get a better computer so that I can more efficiently work on this instead of sitting here for, like 2 minutes waiting for it to open and close. And we were using some pretty broken plugins that definitely required you to do that often during the day. So it was, if not very annoying, also just kind of a drag on what's going on in the project. So it's like, I could do a lot better than just sit here for 2 minutes every half hour or hour or whatever it is to make this stuff work. At the very least, it was extremely annoying. Oh, I know what I did otherwise. I actually made some optimizations. So you might notice that the frames per second's a little higher than it was. Pretty sure I did that this week and not the week before. Either way, or maybe it was the week before. I don't know if I talked about it. I did a lot of optimizations. Some of them were kind of just a happy accident. Or not a happy accident, but they came with other changes that I was planning on making. And so, watching Secret Level Mega Man. Yeah, it's not very long. Some of the optimizations were just kind of like, hey, that was a nice byproduct of what I was already doing. And some of them I deliberately searched out to find some stuff. And it works a lot better on Steam Deck now. But like I said in the Discord, when I talked about it off stream, it's good that we have like 150 FPS on Steam Deck now, but as we add more things to the game, the FPS will go down, and as we make optimizations, it might go back up, and it might go up and down, so it's not a true indicator that we're gonna have, hey, we're gonna have 200 FPS on Steam Deck or something. Who knows? Because it's definitely going to fluctuate, but it's a good sign that we've already got that much, that we got a little bit of wiggle room to add stuff, so maybe it won't drop it below the 120 that I'm targeting. But we'll see. And that's in handheld mode, so just on battery and handheld. I don't know if the Steam Deck cranks up its specs when it's plugged in, because the Switch doubles its GPU power or something when you dock it. I don't know if the Steam Deck actually does that or not. So I don't know if it's on battery, is it actually pumping out higher spec stuff or not. Just to be safe, I always test it in handheld mode, just to see what it's like. And it seems both fairly responsive and the performance is a hell of a lot better. And I notice a lot less frame drops. So even though it's going at 130, I notice when there's what am I going to say? Not just a frame drop, a stutter, I guess you would call it, or a hitch. I can tell there was some lag there where it took some time before the frame went, and then I guess it caught up on frames by the time it hit the end. But I can see those hitches in there when it's not running as smooth as it should be. But yeah, so we'll work those out. I think a lot of them are caused by the movement system, because there's a lot of the movement system and how you traverse slopes and interact with walls and stuff. A lot of that code has just been kind of made in a way that it may not be super efficient, but it works. And then later, once the system works the way we want it, we can start cleaning up and making some more things more efficient. So that'll get better with time for sure. That's one of those ones where I know there's a lot of stuff we might be able to do to optimize there, and I know it's a stutter point in the performance right now, but I'm hesitant to do too much with it without having finished more of the main features of that. Because you can really break it trying to optimize it or make it harder to understand what's going on. And I prefer it to be a little more on the nose before we start, or while we're still developing all the features that it really needs. So I think, speaking of that, what is missing, right, from that? Off the top of my head, moving platforms. Well, full moving platform support, because obviously we do have I pressed the wrong button again. There we go. Obviously we do have this is a legitimate moving platform. It is going up and down, and it is actually pulling Mega Man up and down. But this is more it works because there's a sort of proximity that happens when we issue a move command to Mega Man. If he's already attached to the 4, he's gonna look a bit below him to say, hey, are you still actually touching that 4 or not? And if it detects it within that space, I think it's like 8 pixels, it will snap him down to the 4. And obviously, this moving floor is not moving more than 8 pixels a frame. Otherwise, he would detach. He would not be able to find it because it would move away from him too quickly. And so because it remains within that 8 pixel thing, he will still find it. However, if it moves horizontally, he would not adjust to that. It's only a vertical check. Because it's not really checking being attached to the 4. It's just kind of like Mega Man thinks he's attached to the 4. So we want to make sure that's still true. We want to update that information, because if he's not, then we need to put him in the falling state. And we don't move him as though he's walking on the ground. We have to move him as though he's going through the air. So we always check first. Check your surroundings and see. He thought he was on the 4. Is the 4 still there? If he is, just make sure he's connected to it fully, and it will just kind of push him down a little bit and make sure he's actually on the 4. And then it will allow him to walk or jump or do whatever he's supposed to be doing. So it kind of works, not necessarily as a coincidence, but it's almost like a phase 1 of trying to get these characters to stick to moving objects. But phase 2 would be, hey, okay, the object moved to the left or right. Okay, well, we need to track that, right? We've got to be able to track to see if it moves left or right, because we don't want him to move out from under him. We want him to be carried by it. That's the part that's not in there. And there's definitely a way to do it, and it's not that I don't know how, I just haven't gotten to it yet. For a while, I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to do it. The moving the conveyor belt is not a moving object, by the way. That's just behind the scenes. It's just telling Mega Man to walk. It just doesn't influence his animation, but it's actually the same code that lets you walk and move and jump and stuff. It just, if you are attached, or if you are within 1 pixel of the surface of this area, then it just sends a command to any object that has the ability to walk to just walk to the left without turning the character around. So it kind of pushes him in the... I called the command push instead of move, so it's a little more clear as to what's going on when that command happens. So when I tell him to walk, that is a walk command. or a move command. And when he's getting moved by the conveyor belt, that's a push command. So that's just how that works. So what I'm planning to do, after looking into it for a while, I figured that it kind of looks like I have to do it the same way that I did it in Unity, where I will place a marker wherever. Let me start over. So, like, yeah, obviously he moves every frame, right? So if he thinks he's attached to the floor, what we'll do is at the end of the frame, after he's moved, we place a little marker where he was standing at the end of his move command. And then by the time the next move command happens, we check, hey, are you still standing on that marker, or did that marker move somewhere else in the world? And if it moved, then we need to try to reload Mega Man to where that marker is now. So if it moved left or right, we just check, oh, the marker moved to his right. We just snap him, or try to snap him to that location. If it's been obstructed somehow, then we don't do the snap. We just abort that whole process, and we just, let him go through his normal routine of, hey, am I still attached to a floor? If not, now I'm falling, and we'll do the fall, physics or whatever instead. And if the marker has not moved, then you just kind of, again, just go on your way and do your normal processing. And there's a couple hard checkpoints that we definitely want to check for that, and that's around the physics simulation. So right now, Mega Man, I think, is actually going through 4 move commands. He's doing the one that we tell him to during his normal update. And there's at least 2 more, the before and the after simulation move commands. And they're basically empty move commands, and what I mean by that is that he's not been told to move, but he's been basically told, hey, your surroundings might have changed. You might want to update what you think you are on. If you think you're on the ground, check again, because you may not be anymore, because you may have been moved during the physics simulation. And if that's the case, then he'll do that. And you want to check before and after. So, and you, in the future, when we get the marker system, we can also check that before and after as well, and execute kind of the same sort of routine. So it should work out. I did that in Unity, and it seemed to work all right. And here, it seems like you kind of have to do the same thing, because you can't seem to really attach. You can attach some actors to other actors, but if it's considered a physics object, apparently attaching to a parent doesn't work. Doesn't let you do that. And Mega Man's definitely a physics object, so I guess we'll have to use that old marker system that I developed in Unity. Question from chat. Hello, one question. Now that Unity 6 has finished the fee business, are you going to come back? No, hell no, never, absolutely not. And the reason why is both simple and complex. The simple answer is the runtime fee itself was not the worst part of what they tried to do. And the complex answer is why. The runtime fee was bad. Definitely was bad. It's not an intelligent way to run, charging businesses for usage of an engine. However, the worst part is not so much that they tried to do a runtime fee as that they tried to do a surprise. We changed the rules. We did not ask you your opinion. We do not care what your opinion is. We know that you're not going to like this. But we're doing it anyway, and we change all the rules retroactively so that if you have ever made a game in Unity, we're going to come knocking on your door asking you for that fee. We're going to haunt you like a specter from the past and try to punish you for having ever dared to create a Unity game in the, what, like 12 years that the engine has existed. That's the bad part. And that's the part that you don't know if they'll do again, because they certainly have been comfortable already doing that. And it's literally the Vader meme. I have changed the rules and pray that I don't change them further. And I'm not going to screw with that. You know, I'm not going to live in fear that at any moment Unity could just tweak and be like, oh, hey, we decided to do this terrible, awful thing again without ever asking anybody what they thought about it. And we don't care. We did it because we knew it was going to make us more money, and we don't care what you think about it, and you're going to live with it because we're going to force it on you. And that's literally what their attitude was when they did that. And there's no guarantee that it's not going to happen again, or that it could not just even get worse. You know, say that I stayed with Unity the whole time and said, okay, well, you know, maybe I didn't think it was all that bad, but how it is right now is not the problem. The problem is they could change it at any time, and they don't care what you think about it. And it could get worse. It could get way worse. We don't know. And so now they've backed off of it. Sure, a year late. Oh, thanks. You had me worrying for an entire calendar year, and now all of a sudden we're gonna get rid of that. Well, who knows? Maybe it'll be back next week. I don't know, and I'm not gonna sit around and find out. I'm out. I am out, and we are on Unreal now, and we're staying in Unreal. We're never going back. So that's the long answer. So it's great that they got rid of the runtime fee. I don't trust that they won't do it again. You know, oh, they fired the CEO, but that's great. The CEO is only one part of the problem. You know, the entire upper management is kind of the problem. And for-profit companies are pretty much guaranteed to have the biggest assholes be at the top. And you can't trust them. You can never trust them. So, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm not using Unity again. We won't be doing any more videos on Unity. Which it sucks because I like Unity, and Unity is definitely a better pick for 2D games. But I'm not going to live under the gun like that. So I'm just gonna have to figure out how to make Unreal work for what I want it to, and so far it's been working. It's been tough, but it's been working. I mean, obviously you can see it looks like a proper 2D game. It looks like basically what I had going in Unity. It doesn't quite function exactly the same, but I think it'll still work. I think everything will work out, you know, in the end. It's just going to take a bit of different thinking and a bit more hard work to get exactly what I want. And there's some advantages to Unreal. Unreal definitely has like better shader support and stuff, so oh, absolutely, it was much more difficult to get here. I mean, I dropped Unity that week or the week after, or whatever. You know, I watched to see what was happening, you know, in real time there, but I think by the end of the first week, I pretty much had made up my mind that, like, yeah, even if they do go back on this, it's still, you can never trust them again. So we have to go to another engine. And Unreal was really the only step up from Unity. You know, Godot's kind of half-baked, and GameMaker, I haven't... Let's put it this way. Every game that's ever been made in GameMaker, I have always had some problem running it. And the common function, or the common link between all of them was that it was made in GameMaker. So I'm like, is there something fundamentally broken about what they're doing with their engine if I'm always having problems playing their games? So that was off the table. Especially like controller support was terrible. And on GameMaker games, like I could never get the controller that I wanted to work. Like only some of them worked and some didn't. And if I went full screen, sometimes they would just crash or they would freak the computer out. It was a nightmare. So that was off the list. Godot, like I said, is kind of half-baked at this point. I don't think it's really ready for like super serious development on a broad scale. They've also got weird ways of how you have to port things and stuff, and I'm not going to play around with that. So like Unreal's, it's ready. It's a mature system. It's not necessarily an industry standard, but it's very popular in the industry. It's been around a lot. There's a lot of official support for it, and importantly, I didn't consider this at first, but yeah, that's fine. We get the bots. It is what it is. I mean, I can block them. I don't know if blocking them here deletes them or not. But yeah, I'm not clicking on it. I don't need the views. Not that they're going to give you views anyway. They're probably just going to steal your credit card information and that's it. But one thing that somebody mentioned when I was thinking about, what engine to switch to was, does the company that makes the engine actually make games? Or do they just make the engine? And so Unity does not make games. They just make the engine. Unreal makes Fortnite. So they definitely have used the engine in their own games, have encountered problems and fixed problems that real development, has had. So it's kind of more battle tested by default. And I thought that was an interesting viewpoint. And I definitely add that to my criteria now when I think about, when somebody asks like, oh, what engine should you use, to be like, try to pick one that they're actually using. Because if they just it was a common complaint with Unity that they would add some stuff that didn't make sense, or it didn't work right when you put it in an actual game setting. Like there were some weird things to it, and you're like, well, it's kind of obvious that they don't make games because they didn't encounter this very obvious thing that you would encounter if you actually put this into a real game and stuff like that. So I still think Unity was good enough to use, but it is something interesting to think about. Are they actually using it, in a professional setting where they would run into issues when you actually make a game? Let's see, chat says, for all its goofiness, they usually use Fortnite to show off big feature updates with Unreal 5. Yeah, exactly. They did, I think when Nanite came out, I think they implemented that into Unreal, and they're like, hey, we updated Unreal and now it runs like twice as fast as it used to or whatever. And that's yeah, okay, that's a real game. They really implemented that system. They made it work, and it actually works in a real world scenario, and that's pretty cool. Oh, Lumen, that's what it was. Yeah. I remember Lumen. I assume that Nanite they've also implemented into it. But yeah, Lumen was the big one that they turned that on and all of a sudden the lighting was crazy. I think that one, I'm not sure how they implemented that one exactly, because Lumen is kind of a drain. It does take a lot of processing power, so maybe only the PC versions have it, but I don't know. I don't use Lumen because I don't need Lumen. The Nanite update was before that. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I definitely don't use either of those. So those are for 3D things, and I'm doing 2D things. So they would only slow down my builds. They would not make them any faster. They would only make them much slower, and I wouldn't really use them because there's nothing to use them with in 2D. Obviously there's, well, I was going to say one polygon, but there's probably 2 polygons put together to make Mega Man, which I think we can we view it like that? With wireframe mode, right? Yeah. So ignore the collider shapes here, but see how tiles are two triangles put together to make a quad, and quad because it's got four sides essentially. Mega Man Sprite is literally just two polygons put together, so there's no benefit to having nanite. Right, yeah, it's for the level of detail stuff. I have not used nanite myself, but from the people that have used it, they kind of described it as it's not really a magic bullet kind of thing. Like, you have to be careful. There are some objects that work better with it than others, so you have to just test it and see where it works really, where it makes sense to use, and it's not something that you should necessarily blanket over everything in the game, from what I understand. But that's besides the point. I'm trying to think, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, why I chose Unreal. Yeah, those are the main points. Oh, and open source. Unreal is open source. So one of the other issues that we had with Unity was they had a proprietary way of finding out information about how many people have installed your game, and, do they have active installations, and, how are they calculating this number of installs so that they send you a bill for them and stuff. And I remember, I guarantee they have deleted this off their forum, but when shit hit the fan, and everybody was sending questions, and they're like, well, how are you doing this? And how are you doing this? And how are you doing this? The forums were getting overloaded with questions. And I feel bad for the poor support team that had to be in those days, because they were getting screamed at, and they were trying their best to keep up with the questions, which they themselves had no idea was coming in, from what I understand. They just dropped it on that day, and they're like, hey, we're changing all the rules. Here are the pre-canned answers that you need to tell the public when they ask you, because they're going to come in and they're going to be mad, and you've got to tell them this and that. And one of, God bless them too, one of the, I assume they were not supposed to say this, but one of the support staff basically admitted that the builds of the game that you were sending to your players are filled with spyware. And they are tracking your players, and they are sending back information to Unity servers, and they're basically spying on your players so that they can send you a bill. And that was kind of the last straw for me when I saw that, and I'm like, oh, that's not good. That's definitely not good, because even if they go back on all that, even if they get rid of the runtime fee, even if they get rid of all this stuff, Unity is a closed source engine. You are not allowed to view the source code. You cannot check what's in there. So we don't know how much spyware is in there. They could take it out. They could tell us they could take it out, but we could never find out for ourselves because it's closed source. You can't just easily go in there and look and see what's in there. So you don't know if they're lying or not or whatever. I have not really checked up much on Unity since I left it, so I don't know if they've made any statements about, oh, we stopped tracking players or whatever, or maybe they just kind of shoved that all under the rug and we don't talk about that, and we're not going to admit to it. Yeah, if someone could leak the source, that would be great. But yeah, I'm not going to play guessing games with that, or we're not going to, because Unity has lost all of its trust. So even if they come out and say, oh, we got rid of all the spyware, that's great. I don't believe you. I can never believe you again. So Unreal is open source. So if they put something in there that I don't like, two things. One, I can find it. And two, I can remove it if I want to. I can disable it or remove it or whatever. You can edit the source on Unreal Engine. If you don't like something or you need to add something, you can do that. It's open source. You could just build the editor source yourself. and just do it. I wouldn't recommend to do that necessarily because it's a difficult thing to do and maintain, but if you have real qualms about something in Unreal Engine, you could literally just remove it or disable it or whatever to whatever satisfaction, you'll get from it. You can't do that with Unity. They don't let you see the source. It's all under lock and key, so... I don't know. Hey, G-Man. What's up? Oh, excuse me. Fajitas are coming back for their second attack. The 1 point concern needs to be cranked to 11. Tencent buys Unity. Is that speculation, or did they actually just buy? Did Tencent actually buy Unity? Or was that just kind of a speculation? Oh, speculation. Okay. Yeah, that would be bad. That would be extra bad. Because they probably would be putting more spyware in if that was the case. And you wouldn't know. How would you know? I mean, you could technically reverse engineer any piece of software, but that's a lot of work to make sure that it doesn't have something in it or does have something in it. And then you couldn't do anything about it even if it did, necessarily. I mean, technically, I guess you could figure out how to change the binary in the build to disable something, but I'm definitely not going through all that effort. Sure that. Yeah, they would put the spy in spyware, exactly. So, yeah... I mean, and Unity already merged with that basically spyware company, which is probably was part of the plan. They needed a way to track people. They merged with this spyware company, who probably took their spyware technology, shoved it into the Unity engine, and then they made this rule change and forced it on everybody. I mean, we don't know because we can't check it, and they're not going to tell us the truth anyway, so there's no sense in asking them. You can't trust the answer. But it kind of makes sense. Why would you merge with a spyware company immediately before you decide that you were going to track everybody who is playing a Unity game? It's kind of interesting, Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but we'll never know. And I'm not digging to find out. I'm just getting out of here. And that's exactly what I did. Yeah, I mean, it is possible technically to either, somehow analyze the exe file and disable or change part of the machine code that's responsible for that kind of stuff. But why go through all that trouble? I'm not going through all that trouble. I'm just jumping ship. And, Unreal's got its own issues. Fortunately, not spyware issues or, what else was I gonna say? I guess that was kind of the main thing. But they don't have the runtime fee, and they don't have spyware baked into the thing. I mean, you've got telemetry. All engines have telemetry, which some people may consider spyware, and I guess I kind of agree with that. Telemetry is basically like, it can do things to help the developers figure out information about the players. And I say that broadly because it is a very broad thing. You could say, hey, we want to see how many players make it through what levels, like where do they stop? Where does the average player stop in the game? Do they get through 5 levels and they stop? How many game overs do players have on certain levels? And we could say, oh, well, people are dying left and right on Saturn's level. Maybe we should adjust something about that. Or you could even say, record, what room do they get to where they die? What room do players die most in each level? And stuff like that. So there's a lot of use case for that. Not so much in single player games, but especially like MMOs and stuff. You could say, or like multiplayer games, you could say, oh, what classes and what loadouts are people using and stuff. And you can get that information as a developer, which can be very helpful. Now, it can also be very evil. You could use that information to figure out how much to charge for microtransactions, or what kind of new microtransaction bullshit you want to put into the game. But it can also be used for good and say, yeah, okay, this particular loadout is overtuned, or there's something with this particular ability that seems to be broken, and we want to fix that. You know, you think of like the rematches in Street Fighter 6 or Street Fighter 5 go up to Capcom's server. That's a form of telemetry. They take the rematches and they analyze them, and that's how they get their gameplay statistics. You know, that's technically spying, I guess. They're spying on your replays, but they're using it mainly to figure out, oh, okay, well, you know, Bison's got a 6-1 win rate. Maybe we overtuned the bastard a little bit. maybe we'll patch that, you know, or something. Or if they're trying to figure out a bug, they can use the replay data to figure out, you know, when this bug has happened, and, you know, try to collect all the replays where it has happened, and then they can look at all the scenarios in which it took place and help them kind of like debug the game and figure that out. So you can use telemetry for good, for sure. Again, single player games probably don't really need it. So if there is telemetry on by default, I don't see any reason that I need to use it for Rulers of Space. So most likely that will be turned off. And even if there was there, I would definitely find a way to kind of like ask, hey, you know, do you want to send anonymous usage statistics so that we can help with debug or crash reports or stuff like that? And then, you know, say yes or no and turn it off if it's not, or if you don't agree to it. I think that's probably the most fair way to do it. Because that's the other thing, crash reports. A lot of engines, I know Unity had automatic crash reporting. I never activated it in Pocket Fighter EX, but the option was there. I do remember looking at it. Because you can set up like a... what was it called now? I don't know, some kind of server service or something. That whenever a crash report happens, it would try to connect to the Unity server and send it. I remember checking it out because there were other features too. It was part of their multiplayer service, I think. And when we tried the not rollback netcode multiplayer, which was absolutely terrible, I think that was where I found it, and we were looking at that. So, I mean, it's interesting. It's definitely stuff that can be useful to developers, but I can definitely see where some people would call that spyware. So yeah, technically, I guarantee there's some sort of telemetry ability in Unreal. Technically, Unreal has that spyware in it, but you could just get rid of it. Like even if it could not be turned off, so for some reason, which I highly doubt that's the case, but let's just say it couldn't be turned off. I could just go into the engine source and remove it or turn it off there and just build the engine myself if I really wanted to go that far with it. And it wouldn't be a huge process necessarily to do, you know? I mean, it's a kind of a case-by-case thing, depending on what you want to remove or change. It could be quite an edit to get there, but just to turn something off, probably not that big a deal. And so you spend a couple days on that. And then you just rebuild the editor and the engine source without the thing that you don't want in there or turned off or whatever. And yeah, like you can do that. You cannot do that with Unity. And so even if Unity came back, even if Unity got on all fours and started kissing everybody's butt, even if Unity just gave a whole bunch of free shit out or whatever, I still wouldn't go back. Because their engine is closed source and we don't know what's in it, and they don't really, you can't trust them to tell you what's in it. The biggest form of trust is them letting you see it, like Unreal Engine does, and I'm just flat out I'm not gonna screw with it. I will not be back. they would really have to go open source, have some kind of verifiable proof that they have ejected every asshole who had anything to do with the decision to go to do this in the first place. And just, I don't know. There's a couple other things, like they screwed people over with their pro support. Like they discontinued the indie affordable tier of pro support and made you buy the like $1,200 a month extra super package or get nothing. There was shit like that too. So like, it's not just the runtime fee is really what I'm trying to get at. There's so many things that were even worse than the runtime fee, and nobody pays attention to those. Everybody just talks about the runtime fee. It's like, oh, the runtime fee's gone, everything's fixed. No, it is not. No, it is not. This whole thing has just illuminated so many problems with Unity that there's just no way I could ever be convinced to go back. Oh no, I didn't. Epic's no saint, that's for sure. The Epic Store on browser enables a JavaScript that tracks your visited pages for the entire session after you leave the store. Yeah, well, that's common. They can do that server side too, actually, so I'm not even sure why they bothered with a JavaScript thing. But that's normal. Most web pages do that. Almost every one of them do that. They track to see how you go from page to page. And that's useful information. Now, whether or not they use that information to like sell it to other people, that's where it would be bad, in my opinion. But just knowing that, like, hey, you know, people go to a certain page, or maybe they get to the search page and then they close the browser. Well, that could tell you something. That could tell you that maybe the search is broken, maybe the search is not working right, or it's hard to use and people are frustrated with it. So there are good things that can come of that. But they could also just collect all your data and sell it. So that's also bad. I think Unreal is cool, but imagine now if you were to make a top-down game, you would have a lot of work. No, actually a top-down game would be much easier than what I'm doing right now. Guaranteed. Yeah, absolutely, it'd be much easier. Because a top-down game is really just a 3D game, just viewed from the top. You could use a lot of the built-in stuff that Unreal already has to make a top-down game. It'd be much easier than doing this. Yeah, because recently I was thinking about this specifically. Now, I'm not making a top-down game, but maybe I will in the future, so who knows? But if you think about it, like, this is just viewed from the side, right? This is the capsule of the character viewed from the side. We can look at it in perspective here. Where's Mega Man? Here. So let's see. Let's view collision. How do we do that? Show collision here. So in Unreal, there really isn't any 2D. You have to kind of pretend. So if you see, each of these tiles here are actually a rectangle. They're a collider. And so, excuse me. Essentially, Mega Man's a 3D character. He's just restricted in movement. So I'm trying to get a good angle here. As you can see, the capsule, right? Let me turn off his other boxes here, so it's a little easier to see. Let's see, visibility. I'll say that it's not visible. And we'll turn off his hitbox. There. Okay, now that... Oh, did it not go? Oh, save. I can still see him though. Hold on. Do I have to reload the editor? Maybe I have to reload it. Let's try that. To get that out of the way. Because you'll see that he's actually pillbox. Some people call it the pillbox. In Unreal they call it the capsule, but yeah, both terms apply. That's Mega Man's actual physical shape as a character. And That's obviously a 3D object. Oh, here we go. Okay, yeah, it refreshed now. So let's go to perspective and Mega Man and say no to that. No. So here you can see his pillbox here. Hold on, let me slow down the camera. There. There. No, a little slower. There. So you can see his 3D. He's a real 3D object. He just has a one polygon with a texture on it, and it just happens to be a sprite. And so yeah, you can see that's a 3D object. And here, all these blocks on the tile grid, they're big, thick rectangles. So really, the game is 2.5D, if you want to really get into the technical of it. There are no true 2D support in Unreal, so you just kind of have to fake it and make it work. But if you do a top-down game, it's not that different. So if you do a top-down game, then it's just this. Then all you have to do is take this sprite and rotate it. I'm not sure which way is gonna, yeah, like that, right? And then, yeah, there. So there you go. That's all you have to do. Now you're top down. See? And you don't have to worry about restricting on a 2D plane. You can just use normal 3D movement. So it just works, essentially. The Todd Howard special, it just works. Yeah, you could just be a 3D character with the sprite facing upward, and then you could move around in 3D space. So a top-down game is actually much easier than doing all that, for sure. Actually trying to emulate a side 2D is actually the thing that's really killing me. Well, we don't have to do that in a top-down game, for sure. Yeah, you can still jump and stuff in 3D space, yeah. Can Unreal export to WebGL? That's a good question. Let's see if Google can answer that, because I can't. Can Unreal Engine export to WebGL? Yes, it can. That's what the AI says. I don't know if we can trust that. The AI Google answer says yes, it can. It talks about Unreal 4 web, so maybe not Unreal 5? Let me specify Unreal Engine 5, because that was about Unreal 4. WebGL building support, Unreal forums from 2022. That's about Unreal 4, not 5. Well, this is from a couple years ago, but people are saying they do not see support for 5, but Unreal 4 did have support for it. So, maybe? Is there any way to get Unreal 5 on web? Says, I know they discontinued the support of HTML5 on Unreal 5. Well, that's part of your answer. But I wonder if there's a way, as I am relatively desperate. Me too, buddy. I'm open to any method to do so, blah, 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 blah. Well, as of 1 year ago, people are saying you can't. They ditched the web GPU support. And so Unreal 5 apparently cannot do that. Yeah, it doesn't look like it. Yeah, so it doesn't look like it. Looks like they had it in 4 and it is no longer available. On one hand, would you really be crazy enough to build an Unreal game for web browsers? Imagine your web browser trying to run Lumen and Nanite. Because you got to think the main use case for Unreal is 3D games, so you have to think from that perspective. Would the average 3D game even be able to run in browser? I don't know. Maybe not such a great idea. I'm not sure. Unity did have that functionality, so that was once a cool thing about Unity. But yeah, I don't know. Then maybe they looked at it from the standpoint of, you know, if we try to port Fortnite to web browser, it just chokes it, so there's no real reason to support it. I don't know. Sometimes the limitations of an engine is only really up to the user knowledge. I mean, to a degree. I mean, well, here's the truth. You could, if you wanted to, you could go and port Unreal Engine to any platform that you want to. But good luck, I guess. Have fun with that. I mean, I wouldn't for sure. I feel like that would be out of my scope of expertise, so I would not even bother. Because it would take so long to even do it. By the time I was done with it, they'd be on Unreal 7. You know what I mean? Yeah, you can kind of port anything to anything. But it especially something as complex as the Unreal Engine, just, you're in for a big task. It's potentially worse than porting a single game, maybe. It's supporting everything, you know, like, you'd have to build the features one by one. So, like, maybe you could get some of it, but maybe you can't support Lumen, or you can't figure out how to get it to work on a certain platform or something. You know, you'd have to kind of take it case by case. I wouldn't recommend it necessarily. I use a game engine to avoid having to do that shit. You know, I don't want to be doing that stuff. I want them to do that stuff because I don't want to spend 6 years doing it. You know what I mean? So it's possible, but good luck. I definitely wouldn't recommend screwing with that. At that point, I mean, you probably could just be building your own engine. I'm just gonna turn these back on before I forget to. Actually, I don't have to do that. I don't have to do that because if I close the editor, I can revert those changes. But I think I can't do that with the screen on because I think it shows sensitive information. So let me, here, you can look at my ugly face for a minute while I revert those changes so I don't have to do them manually. But with version control, you can undo. Yep, there's the Mega Man file. Revert. There we go, and now we don't have to worry about it. Okay. Now we're good. But version control can expose some private network information, so you probably don't want to do that on stream. Now, a question out of context. Have you ever used GameMaker 2? No, I haven't, but I played enough games made in GameMaker to know that I don't think GameMaker is a very good tool for making games. I've had a lot of problems running them, even down to just like certain controllers just don't work. You know, going full screen crashes programs or crashes the game or makes Windows freak out and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I don't think GameMaker's up to the standard that I need it to be, and so I don't use it. So I'm not sure what versions those were exactly. Definitely, I had a lot of problems trying to play Undertale. I remember that. That was the last big one that I remember. That's been a while, so I don't know. But it's still, having those experience with every GameMaker game makes me not want to use GameMaker. So, no. we're gonna look for other ones, and that was kind of part of what I mean by Unreal's kind of the only step up from Unity. You know, Godot is a step down from Unity. GameMaker feels like a huge step down from Unity. So like, I mean, those are kind of the big ones. I'm not even sure what other ones are even out there. Because like Unity and Unreal were kind of the two top ones, you know, at that point. And with that one, with Unity out, it kind of, yeah, you're kind of left with Unreal and a lot of compromises to go, you know, with the others. So I ended up in Unreal. Now, I will say that Unreal is definitely harder to use than Unity. For sure. Even after all the experience, you know, for years of using Unity, Unreal is still way more temperamental. There's a lot of stuff that you just kind of have to accept. That, like, for one, I have gotten a feeling for what changes I can make in C++ and actively recompile on that will either end my editor session by crashing it or cause crazy errors and making me have to reboot it anyway. I didn't have to worry about that in Unity. Unity was way more stable in that regard. Unity doesn't necessarily crash because it was built with C#. You would get errors. You wouldn't just bomb the entire editor if you, like, say, tried to access a null reference. So it's definitely more of like Unreal expects you to just kind of know what's going on and be able to handle it, where Unity had a lot more safeguards in it to not just explode the editor at a moment's notice. You know, there were certainly some things you could do to cause a crash in Unity, but you almost had to try to do that. Like, it was not something that was expected. You know, when I do a big change in Unreal, especially like renaming a class or something like that, I always just close the editor. I know it's a dangerous thing. I'm just going to close it and it will resolve itself as it reboots, because doing that live usually does not end well. Or even so much as like adding or removing a property from a class, like a uProperty thing. I don't really have any in this class, but in the... Oh, I guess I closed the sprite. Did I close the sprite? Let me find it. I guess I don't have any properties here, do I? Well, I've got this property, but that's not a managed one. It probably should be, though. This is a uStruct, right? Yeah, this should be a uProperty then. Oh, there, I caught a bug. Oh, right here. The sprite layer. I created a sprite layer system. And so you can have an object, the sprite layer object. Yeah, if I just removed this, if I got rid of the uProperty on here, and then recompiled, there's a chance the whole thing may just crash. So again, I would just close it and reopen it. So it's kind of funny how something professional like Unreal Engine is more unstable than unofficial like Slade 3, the editor made for Doom mods. Well, I guess to be fair, also Unreal Engine is doing a lot more than a Doom mod thing would do for sure. So it's kind of, I'm not sure if that's comparing apples to apples in that case, but the sentiment of you'd think that Unreal Engine was super professional and a lot more stable, that's what I thought going in, and I was really surprised that it wasn't. I was like, oh my god, it's really, like, there's some parts of it that are really archaic too, like a really old mindset of how engines should be. Unity is definitely more modern in a lot of ways, and it's more stable, I think, in part because of that. I like the way that Unity worked as a basic engine better. Like, I like the way the prefabs worked. I liked the way that you could analyze all the objects and the properties, and kind of like the game objects existed at editor time in much the way that they existed during the game. So you could collect and cache a lot of information ahead of time in Unreal, or I'm sorry, in Unity. And then in Unreal, not so much. Like Unreal, the objects and the blueprints, like they don't really exist until it's runtime. So like, yeah, the sprite technically exists here, and these boxes and stuff technically exist, but they kind of don't truly exist until you get to runtime. And that means that you have more limited ability to read like the data between them. So like the components don't really exist. In Unity, you could search at editor time, you could read all the component data, and all the components could see each other automatically. And in Unreal, it's kind of like they don't really exist until the game turns on. So I can't go and start like caching data from one. I can't have like this component here be like, oh, well, I'm going to analyze all the other components in the blueprint and start making decisions about things, because it appears that until runtime hits, you can't really access that information. I think you can access like defaults and stuff, but I don't think you can access like the information from the other components. And that's not necessarily only my conclusion. I've asked a couple other people like, hey, I want to be able to like look at these other components at editor time, so maybe I can cache some more information or something to reduce load times and stuff. And they're kind of like, yeah, you can't do that. Like, okay, that's very strange, because that was a huge thing in Unity that you could do. But I just have to get used to it, you know? So it kind of just is what it is. I'm getting used to that idea. Like you can do, I think, the construction script. This runs even at this runs at editor time, but it also runs again at runtime, I believe. So it's almost like even though there's like some data here that you can look at, it kind of like it doesn't truly exist yet until runtime, and then it has to go through all those steps and recreate it at runtime again. So it's not quite as efficient, or there's not as high a potential of efficiency for that kind of data caching and stuff, as far as I understand it. I've certainly not been able to do it the same way. Yeah, you can change some stuff at runtime, but not a lot. Unity was a lot more stable with changing things at runtime. You can technically, you know, I can turn it on, and if I do what? I made it so the cursor was not locked in. You have to hold shift and press F1 to get the cursor to unlock normally, but I turned it off by default. So I could go over here and look at some stuff, right? And close all these ones. These are all the preloaded objects from my actor pooling, the ones in yellow. And Mega Man's somewhere here. Here he is. So yeah, watch his location. See, his location is updating. That's definitely him. And so you can look at stuff. Like, we'll take a look at his sprite body. That's a pose. You see him blinking, or does he see his sprite updating as he's walking and jumping? So that's definitely like live data. However, let's say we want to change his palette here to this. Whoops! Whoopsie doodle. Yeah, I don't know if it invalidates the object or causes the object to, I don't know. I'm not sure what happens, but the object just basically explodes when you try to change anything on him during runtime. So now we're just getting infinite amounts of errors. You see his animations don't even work anymore. He goes into the ground when he's sliding. Yeah, it's bad. It's no good, no bueno. So I don't know why it does this. Is it just not designed to have real-time data manipulation? Are you just only supposed to look but don't touch? I really don't know. So I don't really try to do much with that, but I've never ever had this problem in Unity. So I don't know. Yeah, so the provided sequence was invalid. So it's definitely like all the references to all the objects, like the actor sequencers, are completely broken. So it just doesn't know what to do. I have no idea. It just completely freaks out. Yeah, Unity lets you do it without a problem. I never had a problem with Unity updating, data at runtime. So I don't know. I'm not sure if it's just not really supported in Unreal, or there's something specific with actor sequencers that are not good for that, or I don't know. It just seems like whenever you change any property on any part of this actor, that it somehow causes some kind of refresh or data loss or something to happen to the whole object where it just freaks out. So I don't know. I'm not really sure what that's about. Maybe it runs the construction script over again? I don't know. In which case, yeah, that would make things not work right. That's for sure. So I don't know. Not sure what the problem is. I just kind of avoid doing that. So I've been kind of like, look but don't touch, I don't know what you mean by an error handler. I mean, you can do a try catch. You're trying to catch an exception? Is that what you mean? Because otherwise, there's not really any error handling except like catching exceptions, and that assumes that whatever you're working with throws an exception instead of just crashes. Yeah, I mean, you can do that all over the place if you want, but I don't find it particularly too useful. Because it's still going to cause the problem, you'll just get notified of the problem. Like, if it was a super huge problem, it would have just, like, exploded. The whole editor just would have went down, crashed, and we got an error out of it, and a crash report. But that doesn't happen, it just seems to just freak out. So I'm not really sure exactly what's up with it. I also can't add things like that to existing classes. I can't, unless I want to edit like the editor itself, but I want to try to avoid doing that because every time you do edit editor source code, you have to kind of manage that. So whenever there's an update, it undoes whatever you did because the new version of Unreal is not going to have your changes in it. And now you have to start changing that. So I'm not even sure. Sure, you could put a whole bunch of try catches, but I'm not sure if you could get one inside of the problem object, potentially. It might not, you might not be able to get it to where it needs to be to make a meaningful difference, I guess is what I'm trying to say in that regard. If it's my own code, that's one thing. But the problem seems to be the actor sequencers. I mean, maybe every object, maybe every component is just getting completely screwed up, but I don't know. Oh, it's just looking, somebody tagged me in the server, but it's not related. So yeah, I'm not really sure. I didn't look into it so much as just kind of, I avoid doing that where possible. I mean, it is a little helpful to be able to see where he is in the universe here. You know, you could, excuse me, if you, oh, I can't do the, I can technically look around in 3D space, but you can see probably on the margins here, little bits of pixels and stuff, but because my game screen is in the way, I can't see anything. So going into F8 debug mode doesn't do anything for me in real time. I don't know if there's maybe a way I could hide it while it's while I'm in that mode. Like just disable this kind of thing, because the normal game, oh, excuse me, the normal game just looks like it does here. So if you were to look at the game without the 2D camera I made, you know, it would look kind of like this, just without the debug stuff showing. It would just be in 3D. I don't know. I think I disabled the switch that I made. I had a camera switcher. Oh yeah, you know what? I can look at it. Where is my 2D camera here? Is this it? And that's camera collision visible. Did I remove it from here too? Hold on. Game resolution. Yeah, maybe I removed that code. I used to have code that would disable the camera here. Let's see, camera tracker. Oh, maybe this is it. Maybe this is it. Yeah, camera select. So let's see, this one, right? If I turn that on, what happens? Okay, the menu still comes up, but I bet the camera in the background is actually working. Because it's set to follow the player. But it unsubscribes from the camera tracker list. Oh, if it's not following the player. But if it is, then it updates the location. I bet this is the one, so I have to copy this essentially. And I have to go where I'm creating the 2D wallpaper and stuff. And the 2D camera screen and turn it off. I think that's in game mode, so it might be here. This is the on-screen stats. We want to keep those. It might be this one. I think it's this one. So then, oh, well, I can get as a branch, right? Yeah. Get value of shared bool, but this one is camera select. Camera select. Okay, so if oh, I still have to branch it. So we want to get the reference to this. It's not being saved, so we're just gonna spaghetti code it here for a second. Well, what happened? Yeah, connect that. What are you doing? Connect it. Why in the hell it ain't working? There we go. Then visibility. Set visibility to hidden, I think. Well, I guess it's if this is false, set it to hidden. Or if we got... Oh. I don't know why the exception keeps happening, but it does. I guess doesn't matter whether we get the default or not. I think we just want to set it to invisible. Yeah? Or, actually, I think I have that backwards, sorry. Because if I turn it off, then it'll be invisible. Yeah? Yeah. I want it to be the opposite. I want it, if it's true, which means we're selecting the alternate camera, then we don't want it to be visible. So let's see if it works. Yeah, there we go. Okay. And this is 3D mode, sort of. So, yeah, but we fixed it. Yeah, you can see the 3D shapes over here in this area. I've showed footage like this on Blue Sky and Twitter. This is what the game really looks like. It's technically just 2.5D like I showed you before. So like, Mega Man can move up slopes and he can navigate all the 3D terrain and stuff if he really wants to. I just kind of keep him on a tight leash so he doesn't wander into the third dimension. This could be useful for debugging though, for sure. And then now if I do the F8, now I can look around in debug mode, or debug camera, and actually like check things out. But the 2D camera was blocking the view of this earlier. That's what I was trying to get at. And then I can go back. So if I really need to debug something, I can do something like that. Oh, hey Ponton, what's up? How's it going? I'm a bit tired and worn out this week, but I'm here. So I'm trying not to push it today too hard. Let's see, we started at 8, right? So 9, 10, 11 will be 3 hours. Yeah, I probably won't go too much longer than 11. Or maybe just stop at 11. To not try to... I definitely overdid it last time, and I paid the price for that all week. So we're not doing that again. Yeah, debug fly, get them from behind. These crates have infinite HP and these ones always reflect, so... I use these ones, the purple ones, to test, like, the hit effects, because it'll never die, so I can continue to hit it and watch the effect and see if I like it or not. See how it looks. But, yeah, so... Maybe one day we'll make a actual 2.5D game. I'm making the character controller with that presumption that it should be able to be used in 2.5D context. And that's actually why I made one of the recent changes. There's a new component that I have, where is it? Actor plane controller. So plane, in terms of like setting an actor onto a plane or having movement based on a plane, what that really means is that there's sort of like a heading. You glue the actor to the plane and they only move along the plane. And what I mean by that is this would actually be a lot easier to show with a 3D character. I think I'm gonna have to just draw this. I don't think it's gonna make sense if I do it with Mega Man like that. So we're gonna do a top-down thing, right? I guess I'll just draw a guy. Put him on a new layer. So like, oh, that was not what I wanted. Let's just make a pre-made circle here. So this is our guy from the top down, right? So you're looking at the top of his head. And here's his nose, right? Oh, hold on. Here's his nose. And his eyeballs are here. Can kind of, those are his eye sockets, right? I don't know. And he's looking this way. This is the top of his head. He's bald. Oh yeah, his ears. Yeah, here's his ears, right? There. It's kind of like Link. He's got pointy ears. This is your guy from the top down. And, you know, he can turn and move and go in all sorts of directions and stuff, and that's fine. But we want him to only go in a 2D manner, right? So we want to glue him to a plane. And I'm going to make him just wider so he's got an uneven center here. So I want to draw the plane. I'm going to draw it in green. And I'm going to name these layers because I will forget what they are. So here's your plane, essentially. The plane is like you took a sheet of paper and you put it right down the center of him. So, if he was standing on his side, right? You got your dude and he's got his body here and he's standing, and that don't look much like a side view, does it? Here. He's standing here. Here's his legs, his feet, and he's looking this way, right? The plane literally like cuts through him like a Mortal Kombat finishing move. It's literally just like it cuts right through him. So like right between the legs. Just like this, just like a giant infinite sheet of paper, if you want to think of it that way. And you know what? I'll just make a new object to show it. I think that makes sense, but I think it'd be better if you just saw it like in 3D. So BP plane test. So I'm going to get rid of that sprite in the middle, and then we're going to add a mesh, dynamic mesh, static mesh. And let's pick something fun. I don't know if we've got characters or not in here. Hey, that's this diamond thing. This is kind of neat, right? You know what? Let's make the face. Actually, let's make the face. Oh, I don't know what Arcade Editor Sphere is. I just want a normal sphere. Editor Sphere, Material Sphere, close enough. So, and we want like his nose, right? So we need a nose. And his nose is going to be like a cylinder or something. Yeah. Yeah? Is it too small? What's up? Oh wow, that sphere is like huge, that's why. Do we have just a normal sphere? How about that one? Okay, oh, okay, thank you. It's just small, right? Okay. Then we can change this back to like small or one. Or am I looking at the wrong one? Yeah. Okay. All right. Sorry. That sphere was just super huge, so it threw everything off. Fuck. Where'd they go? Where'd the mesh go? Where'd they go? There they are. Am I far off in space? Where am I? Where am I? Why can't I get to them? Are they too small? What's going on? I'm lost. I'm lost in the editor. Why can't I just click on them to get to them? Can you not do that? Alright, yeah, I'm lost. I'm completely lost in 3D space. I am, I don't know where they are. We're just gonna make them times 10 and see if we can see them. I'm lost in space. There we are, there we are. There we are. Okay, we made it. We made it back. Okay, alright. What's this one? This one's a sphere? Let's name him. And this is going to be the nose, or our pseudo nose here. And it's only going to be 2. And we're going to rotate it. There. So now it's kind of like a Pinocchio nose, right? You get it? There's his nose. And you know what? We'll give him eyeballs. So we'll duplicate that. I1. It'll only be 1 the size of 1. No, I'll get the size of 2. We have big eyeballs. Yeah, get in there a little farther. There. There's eyeball number 1. Is it actually attached? Barely. There. Eyeball number 1. Duplicate that. Now it's eyeball number 2. And that's good enough. There's our dude. He's got a nose and an eyeball. So now you know, like, he's looking Game & Watch guy, right? Yeah. So now he's looking that way. And so what a plane does, when you assign a plane to something, it's basically just like doing this. Damn it. Yeah, grab that. Alright. It's just doing this. It's literally bisecting him. It's like saying you are affixed to this giant piece of paper and you can only move along that. In fact, let me add him to a different scene so I can move him all at once. Here, okay. And when you move, you are only allowed to move along this sheet of paper. That's basically what assigning a plane to something is. It's like a giant piece of infinite sheet of paper that cuts right down the middle of your character. And you can only move along the sheet of paper. You cannot move in green anymore. You don't get green. You don't get Y. You just get X and Z, essentially. Or wherever the plane is facing. And when you want the character to move in a different way, you kind of reorientate the plane. And then, so wherever the plane is going, that's basically where the character is going. And that's how you get 2D. Oh, he dropped his nose. He dropped his nose. I didn't grab the whole object. I just grabbed his sphere head. And that's kind of how 2.5D works. They kind of set this part of the stage, I guess, is this plane, and then you attach the character to the plane and they can only move along that. And that's just kind of how it goes. So I'm working under that presumption that we're just going to do everything like that. Instead of explicitly just saying, oh, we're only going to use the X and Z axis. It's like, well, let's use X and Z axis, but relative to the plane. So if we change the plane, then Mega Man can go into the background and whatever. Now, this game doesn't need it, because this game is a pure 2D game. Or it's supposed to look like a pure 2D game. Where's my thing here? Here. This game is not meant to look like it's 2.5D. It's supposed to look like this. It's pure 2D. Everything looks like a sprite. Nothing looks 3D. It just looks like this. But again, I'm always building for the future, right? So what if the next game is a 2.5D platformer? Well, then we need that functionality. And since we're 90% of the way there anyway, because it has to be that way in order to basically work with the 2D characters, well, why don't we just go all the way with it and make it an actual 2.5D character controller? And so that's basically where I am now, just kind of fixing up the parts where I kind of explicitly just use the X and Z world axis and then just saying, okay, then it'll be just on that plane. And if you're there, what if the next project is a 3D fighter? I mean, you could use the plane for that too, I think. Because I think when you move the character, this is just speculation on my part. When you move a 3D character, I think for the duration of the movement within that frame, I kind of expect them to lock them to a plane to get them to go up in the direction that you're pressing, like if they're walking up a hill. Because we did some experiments about that before we went to do the 2D stuff. So I'll show it here again. So using the debug one here, these objects over here were deliberately placed in a way that was supposed to test that. So right now, this is on a slant. This is actually, oh, and he got stuck. Hold on. He gets stuck on the corner of these crates sometimes, and it's kind of annoying. But these are actually slanted. These floors, to give it that perspective, just so you can see it easier. And a lot of these objects are very manipulated. I don't know if I can change this in real time. It doesn't bring up the selector here. I guess I can't really grab that in real time. But I'm trying to show that some of these objects are actually like twisted and stuff, and he still cuts through them on that 2D plane. So like, especially here, this object is absolutely warped. Like, it's not flat. You see how it's like, it's all at a goofy angle. But he still runs up it. Using the plane, he runs up it straight. And he doesn't deviate or get lost or start going into the background or anything. Like, he's really affixed to that. So I kind of expect that, like, that's kind of what you want the 3D character to do. In a way, when you move the analog stick, you don't want him to start deviating along. You don't want him to get influenced by the slope. You just want him to walk up in the direction that you're pressing, right? So do 3D characters then probably do this as well behind the scenes, is what I'm guessing. That they kind of need that get the right direction to go up the slope. They need to affix it to the plane, project it, that they call it, projecting to the plane, and then it would just go up straight in that direction and not deviate. Because when I didn't do that, the direction was getting warped, sort of like as a bias, and depending on which way that the surface was rotated. So Mega Man would start coming toward the screen or start going away from the screen. And the plane was the only thing that stopped him from doing that. So I kind of wonder if 3D characters, for each individual move frame by frame, they kind of lock him to a plane relative to which way the analog stick is being pressed. And then for that frame, it processes in that direction, but then it readjusts, frame by frame. And that way you can walk in circles and do all that sort of stuff. It's just speculation on my part, but based on the experiments that we did, it kind of looked like that was exactly what was going on. That you would kind of have to do that to get a precise movement. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Like I said, I'm just taking a guess at that, but that's what it kind of seemed like. So, to answer the question finally, you might have to do that anyway in like a 3D fighter or like a 3D platformer or something like that. You might have to have some variation of that functionality anyway. It's just with a 2D character, regardless of where you press the analog stick, the plane is always fixed. It doesn't matter where the plane, or it doesn't matter which direction you're pressing, the plane is always going to correct that movement along that one you know, bisection. It won't allow it to go into the background or whatever. You want to think of it, you know, in the example where we had our little Pinocchio nose guy, where he was bisected by the plane. The entire stage in a 2D game is basically bisected by the plane. So if you just imagine a giant cut right through the center of everything, that would be your plane, and everything's attached to that plane. That's the best way I can describe it. And maybe I'm not saying it all too clearly, but as far as I can tell, that's how that works. And it's been working well so far. I've got all the 3D stuff is now going through that plane controller that I showed. F8? No, F11. Too many Fs. This actor plane controller. Now my 2.5D or 2D character controller is looking at this specifically. And the goal of this component is to say, any component that needs to know, you know, that, oh, this 2D character is definitely like he's supposed to be along that plane, right? So the movement needs to know what is the plane that we're currently using. The component that turns the character around also needs to know what that plane is, and that data needs to be the same. So you could get a problem where, like, you told the character controller, the movement controller, hey, we changed what plane we're on. We're gonna go this way now. But if you don't also tell your 2D character facing direction controller that now we're using a different plane, well, that's going to get screwed up because that one's running on one plane and the other one's running on the other plane, and they're going to start conflicting and messing up. So I said, what we're going to do, anything that's a 2D character component that needs to know something about the plane, you're going to look for that actor plane controller. Everybody's going to look at that, and that's the only source of information that we're going to have for the plane. So that if we change it here, everybody gets updated. It's like a one central location for this plane information. And that was the idea, to have this. And so now the character movement is explicitly tied to this. I removed the manual. At least I'm pretty sure I removed the manual information for that. Let's see, where are we? Platform movement. Yeah, I removed the plane information. I don't see it here anymore. So it's always, every time it's looking towards this thing. And if it can't find this thing, it should throw an error, which we can test. Let's see what happens. Well, it didn't like that. Uh-oh, it didn't like that. Okay, now we're good. It should throw an error. Yes, invalid actor plane. So it's definitely working. And I put him back, so he should be okay. Yeah, we know. Oh, you know what? I bet I bet the reason I got those exceptions because there was probably some coding referenced in here. I bet. No, nothing. Let's see. Do we actually work at all now? Okay, it still works. That's good. Again, I'll probably just revert all the changes that we ever make to him anyway. I don't want to goof anything up. But now I can't do this in real time, as you saw, because it'll screw up all the, at least screw up the animation files. But the idea here is that the data changes here. Yeah, this is the current plane. Now this is in kind of a human unreadable format, but the I don't know how they got -0. That's a new one. The one here, it's probably 0, 1, 0, because that's what the right-facing plane is. If you take the character's right vector, that's usually going to be what their 2D plane is. So I just set it to that at the beginning. But yeah, plane normal and begin is that. But I think it's, let's see, set plane to the owner's generated begin. I think we can undo that even and just manually put it in there, and I think it should still work because it should be the same. It should be the same information. Yeah, it still works. So this is still using this is now using the world coordinate, but calculation wise it comes out to be the same. Because again, the character's right vector is a good representation for what their current kind of facing direction plane would be. So you can kind of take both. But yeah, so this kind of is what it is. But yeah, the reason I got this here is that everybody's going to be looking at this. And if this data changes, everybody's updated and everybody's good. And it also would be an easy way for other objects to change it. So say if we need to change the plane on a character from the outside, like, I don't know, maybe the level zoning is what tells him to fix to a different plane. So he steps into, you know, the event box, and the event box is like, oh, hey, you've reached the part where now your plane is going to be this because we're curving you around this area or whatever. You know, then it'll just be an easy thing for an outside entity. All they have to do is look for that plane controller, change that, and the entire character is now set off on that new direction. And hopefully that should make it easier for the whole system to work correctly. And that's why I built that. This part of it's complete, but the other components are not all there yet. Definitely the actor facing controller is definitely not hooked up to it yet. But that one's going to be kind of weird because left and right don't have meaning anymore when you think of things in planes, because the plane has a direction too. So you think of like, oh, well, the direction of this plane is going this way because he's facing that way. But you could just turn this around, right? You could just 180 it. And now the plane is facing the other direction. I think the red axis is probably what you're looking for that. To see if I undo it, red axis is pointing that way. If I redo it, the red axis is pointing the other way. You could think of that as like the direction that the plane is facing. So now characters would kind of be, I guess they would have, instead of like left or right, it would just be with the plane or against the plane. And right now the character is against the plane. He's facing to the right. See, his red arrow is to the right. The plane red arrow is to the left. But it could be, again, it could be flipped. So you can't think of it as right and left. You have to think of it as with or against. So I'm thinking that's the way I'm gonna have to do it, to change the language in that way. It's already a little ambiguous, because I don't even really use left or right so much. I use it whenever I turn Mega Man around. I don't say if it's left go right and right go left. I just say turn around. Trying to think of where. Update walking? No, it's not in here. It's somewhere. Here. Here's the current facing controller, which does use left and right notation, but I always just do turn around. I just check to see if the analog stick is in the direction, or is in a direction that's opposite of what Mega Man is facing, then turn him around. So I don't even think of it as left or right anymore. I think of it more as like a forward and backward kind of thing. So he could be orientated anywhere, and forward and backward are still kind of the same. And that's it, he just turns around. And this is the old facing character controller. Yeah, just get the opposite direction and set the direction. That's all turnaround does. I did the same thing in Pocket Fighter EX as well. I didn't think of it as left or right. I would have functions that would be like face a target, like face a target position. And I guess in Unity there would be game objects, right? So it'd be face towards this game object. It would take the position of that game object and feed it through the facing direction controller, and it would turn him around if he needed to be turned around. And that way, you know, because the characters would be looking at each other in a fighting game. So when the character was not doing a move, which I essentially made it like is busy. So if they're busy doing something like a move or an animation or something that they can't get out of, once they're not busy, then they would get flipped around if they needed to, if the character was behind them, because it would just run the, you know, face this target, face target, and the target would always be the other player. So that's kind of how I try to make it as generic as possible, which might help me in my quest to now make this based on the plane. So we'll see. My expectation is it's going to be a with or against. If both the red arrows are on the same direction, then you're with. If you're not, then you're against. And then you just, I guess, make it the opposite. I guess you would just take the plane direction and say set with would copy the plane's direction and make that your direction, and set against would copy and invert it and set it, and then that would be your direction. That's what I expect that it's going to end up like, but I don't know until I get to it, I suppose. I think it makes sense, but you know, who knows. That's I'm still learning. The whole idea of having to do 3D to fake 2D is also new to me, so you have to bear with me. I am learning along with everyone else at this point. And I'm not a huge math guy, so this is challenging for me to try to figure this out. I know my wife's always like, oh, you know math, you could do this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of don't. I kind of know what I need to know, and I have no idea about all the stuff that I don't need to know yet, or will know in the future. I have to look it up and find formulas that other people have made, because I am not a math guy. I'm not good at mental math. I'm not good at geometry. I'm not good at any of this stuff. I just flying blind. I'm learning on the fly. It's auto-saving. Takes a minute. Yeah? Okay, save the map. I don't know why it wouldn't auto-save the map. I just kind of hit the save command out of reaction there, and it still had to save the map. But I don't know. I don't know. Are there any questions for any of that? I feel like I'm confusing myself now, just even talking about it. But yeah, I'm just trying to get everything to adjust to that plane, because if then everything is relative to that plane, then we can start turning it and changing the plane and saying, oh, when you reach this part of the stage, we're going to change the plane and change it again and again and again, and then you can curve the character around, you know? It makes sense? Well, I'm glad it makes sense to you, because I feel confused. I think, honestly, without joking though, I think it makes sense. I think it's a solid idea. I mean, I've talked to a couple people about it, and that was kind of their suggestion, that you have to get the character on the plane, and then if you can move the plane, you can readjust where the character goes. And it would just be managing that. I guess the level itself in a 2.5D actual like 3D graphic game, I would expect that you would have to build that into the level. It was kind of done in Mega Man 2.5D, but in like 90-degree snaps. Yeah, and it makes sense there because you are dealing with like blocks, like 8-bit blocks, and they're only going to build it like a Minecraft level, right? Like it's not going to curve around necessarily, it's just going to go another way. So yeah, once they reach that intersection, they must change Mega Man's plane to then go sideways and the way you'd go. And so I'm not sure what might be the best way to handle that in terms of how to set that up. But that really is a future question. The only reason I'm doing any of this now is because I'm always trying to think of, well, eventually I want to make a more complicated game. And the purpose of doing Rulers of Space is not just to do it, but to get practice in Unreal and use it as a testing ground for building a little more than this game needs, but that will help in the future. And I think doing all of this, even though I won't be pushing Mega Man into 3D space and navigating 3D objects, I think it's the proper way to do 2D, and it's going to be the way that's going to help me in the future. So I don't need to do this, but it's a good way to put it into practice and make sure it works, and then, you know, I can use it for something else in the future. Because I've got ideas on games that could, on 2D games, so to speak, that could use different planes. You know, having, like, a plane isn't just like a direction either. It has an actual, like, offset. So, like, a plane can be, like, over here. And then what you would do is you say, oh, hold on, I can't see him anymore. You'd say, oh, I'm going to snap into the plane. Well, then you would just move him over here. It's not that he would be here and just be locked in the direction. He would actually physically get put over here if you were to change his plane from one over here to over here. You know what I mean? So it's not just a direction. You know, planes have an actual origin point in 3D space. So you could have like two of them, right? You could say, oh, I've got two different planes. And think of like, I could just say WarioWare Virtual Boy, but I assume that most of you probably don't know what that game is like. I'm trying to think if there's another equivalent. What's that one game? Man, I can't think of it now. As an indie game, it kind of came out like 8 years ago. It came out in the 3DS, and you could hop into the background. It was 2D, but there were two 2D background layers. You could hop between the. You know, you got the nerd. He's the nerd, and he's got the gun. It's a little sprite-based game. I can't remember what the game is now. It's like that, essentially. So you could have the foreground and the background planes, and have the character jump from here over to here, do something in the foreground, and then jump back into the background, you know? Something like that. What's that other game? That new Monster Boy game. Or Monster World, Wonder Boy, and whatever. The new one that they made, where he turns into a pig. There's some parts of the game are like that, where you can jump into the background and foreground. And I guarantee they do something like this. And that's what I want. So even if it's a 2D only game, I want to be able to jump into the background. Again, like Virtual Boy Wario Land, which is a great game, by the way. I was only able to play it recently, and it's really good. But they had that way back on the Virtual Boy. They had Wario jump into the background and jump back, you know, with special blocks. Some of the Shantae games did that too. But that's the kind of stuff, I want that flexibility. I want to do something like that eventually. And so, you know, Rulers of Space doesn't really do that, right? But, yeah, or more than two planes, you know. You could have 3 or 4 or whatever, you know, and just jump back. And I mean, that's really the term, planes. You're jumping between planes. And I think it's literal in the sense that you are literally jumping between two planes when you do that. So I'd like to do something like that. I think that would be very nice. Monster World 4 kind of did it too. I'm not sure which one that is. Wonder Boy. That series confuses the hell out of me because there's Wonder Boy and Monster World, and then there's Monster World, and there's Monster World 2 and 3, but they're all like different. I don't even know which one's which. The new one that did with the HD hand-drawn graphics and he turns into the pig, that one. They did that a little bit. Monster World 4 was a Genesis one. Oh, yeah. Okay, I know which one you're talking about. They did eventually localize it. Yeah, it came out on the Wii, and there was a PS3 release, I think, as well. And then they remade it, but the remake kind of looked like crap. Oh, Tomba does that too? I haven't played that one, but I assume that around that that sort of like PlayStation era that they were definitely doing like actual 3D jumping between stuff. I mean, the new Donkey Kong games do it. The new Donkey Kong Country ones do it. Hercules on PS1 had planes too. Oh, there you go. So that's I want to join the PS1 technology era. All right, we're gonna make the jump into the future. Yeah, Disney's Hercules. Right, that's true. There probably were like the TV show Hercules games for sure. I guarantee there was something like that. But yeah, I know which one you were talking about though, because I remember seeing that. They had it was ported to PC as well, so that was that era. See, that's what I want. I want to get to that 32-bit PS1 era. We're making the jump to the future, where no one's ever gone before. That's what I want to do, and damn it, that's what I'm gonna do. So yeah, again, the Rulers of Space does not need this technology, but just like with Pocket Fighter EX, this game is planned to be my kind of testing ground for all these things. And then that will just make the next game so much easier to make. The goal would be that, with the next game, all of the stuff is done. All the systems are done, at least to the point where we can just jump right in to the next game. We don't have to worry about the 2D camera. We don't have to worry about the 2D movement. We don't have to worry about sprite animations. It's just ready to go. We start a new project and we just do it. We just go. And that's what I want. I want that kind of functionality. And that's what I had in Unity until Unity did their thing. And now we don't have Unity anymore. And I'm still mad about it. I really am. It was very much to the point where I could start a new Unity game project file, import my library of all the stuff that I built from Pocket Fighter EX and a couple other test projects, and I could just start going. Sound effects, done. Music, ready to go. Everything. It just start building the game and not have to worry about how things move and this and that. I just do it. It just already works. It just goes. And that's essentially what I'm trying to get back here in Unreal. And that's what this game's supposed to do. This game forces me to go through all that. Well, I gotta figure out sprite animations, I gotta figure out 2D movement, I've gotta figure out sound effects and music and camera systems and map systems and all this other crap. And then I just take all the technology and I throw it at the next project. It's kind of like a snowball effect. The snowball will grow and get bigger for every project that it's used. And that just makes more future projects easier to do, at least ones that would utilize that. If I say, my next project's going to be Mario 64 clone, well, I mean, some of this stuff will help a little bit, but it's not the same, I'm not building a 3D platformer, so there would still be some considerable thought that would have to go into it. But if the next project is 2.5D side scroller, well, now we're cooking. We've got things ready to go. We got the character controllers, we got the maps, we got the sound effects, we've got all this stuff. So that's the idea. And I guess to put another point on the Unity thing, yes, I could have finished Pocket Fighter EX. I could have finished the Mansion game. I could have finished those games and then moved on. But all the technology that I would develop while doing all that will never make the jump to the next engine. So that doesn't help me in the future. It's like, yeah, okay, I could get these games done and then have to start over again anyway in Unreal. So I'm just going to start over again in Unreal and just redo all that stuff in Unreal if possible, you know? That's kind of the idea. You know, I'm not going to stick around and keep getting screwed by Unity in the meantime while I'm finishing these projects for the next few years. I'm going to start in Unreal now and get everything rebuilt there, do the same sort of snowball effect with the technology and just roll with that. And unfortunately, you know, that cuts out those projects, some of them temporarily and some of them probably permanently, but you know, why would I want to, I guess, spend time building technology and games for another 4 years that are just not going to be able to go anywhere? I won't be able to use that and continue on, so I kind of just cut my loss there. You know, that was a big part of the decision, honestly, is that there's no future for me. Even if I stayed with Unity, there's no future because I'm not going to make another game with it. At best, I would finish that one and move on. But that's not going to give me that jump in technology for the next project. I'm going to have to just start over anyway. So I kind of figured, well, we'll just rip the Band-Aid off now and get it over with. And so that's what we're doing. That's exactly what we're doing. Yeah, so I feel like I'm running out of steam now. I'm getting kind of tired. I definitely don't want to hurt myself like I did last time. Because I'm still kind of feeling the effects from that, unfortunately. Which sounds kind of silly, but it's true. I actually had been in a bit of pain since that Wednesday. And it hasn't really gone away. It's gotten a little better. But I feel like because it happened right after stream, that must have been the actual cause of that, you know what I mean? So I don't want to push it this time. It was really fun. It was really fun, and it was a really long stream, but, you know, I'm kind of afraid to do that again for obvious reasons. So I think we'll cut it. I mean, we did reach 11. So that is our, 3 hours from 8. Well, we started a little bit late because, like I said, the restream thing changed on me, so I needed a few minutes to get that working. But, you know, I don't know. It's only like 5 minutes late, so cut me some slack, right? It was 3. It's close enough to 3 hours. It's 3 hours. So yeah, we will be back. Not next week. I'm not desperate enough to be streaming on Christmas Day. Okay. So we're gonna do New Year's Day, which is should be fine. I think New Year's Eve would be kind of weird to stream on, but New Year's Day is fine. Because New Year's, I mean, it's not quite like Christmas, but New Year's Eve, like everybody's preoccupied. They're already doing their own thing, right? So it'd be kind of weird to stream on that. But New Year's Day should be fine. So we'll do that. January 1st will be a brand new year. Hopefully this one goes good. Every time I try to be like, yeah, brand new year, let's get it, and then something tragic happens. Like the what was last time? Yeah, I was like, yeah, it's like 2021. I released a retrospective video. I'm like, we're gonna go into 2022. Let's get it. Let's go. And then I like immediately went to the hospital. It was awful. So I'm not gonna jinx it this time. It's just a normal Wednesday. It just happens to be another year, right? But it's a normal Wednesday, normal week. I'll try not to make a big deal out of it, so I don't go back to the hospital again. I've had enough of that stuff. All right, we don't need any more of that. So yeah, January 1st, 2025, a brand new year. We'll see what we get, and that's pretty much it. So I guess have a good Christmas. Have a very Merry Christmas, and I'll see you after that. And so we've got, well, I say we, but it's just me. I've got a Patreon for this channel. It helps me pay for the streaming service. You notice that I stream on YouTube and Twitch at the same time. Unfortunately, that's not free. That is actually kind of expensive. So the Patreon helps me pay for that and to like boost the Discord server and and that kind of stuff. So go to patreon.com/markdwiz if you feel like it. If not, don't worry about it. It is what it is. And then the Discord link is down below. You can come visit and yell at me throughout the week. If I feel good, I'm usually in there doing stuff, taking questions. But if I don't answer, then I'm probably not doing too good that day. And that's kind of it, I guess. I don't know. What else is there? I feel like I'm forgetting something, but it don't matter. Everybody's busy now. We gotta do Christmas, and then we'll come back. So you guys take care, and I guess I'll see you later. Have a good one.